Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars and welcome to my review for episode 10 of Star Trek Picard, the season finale for the show that we were all eagerly anticipating as Star Trek fans, but unfortunately we didn't really get exactly what we wanted with this show. I think that is fair to say. Now this episode is called Et in Arcadia Ego Part 2. We had Part 1 last week, and this episode, I think I really wanted this season to finish on a high. I thought last week's episode was a bit of a letdown, all that huge build up to get to this planet of these synthetic organisms. We got there and it was a bit of a damp squid. The episode itself wasn't overly interesting, felt like I don't know, it was a bit deflating, to say the least. So I was really hoping that this episode would end on a high. And what do we get in this episode? Well, Sodje has decided to, well, she's been kind of manipulated to call on these super beings, super synthetic beings. It's very Mass Effect, I have to say. Very synthetic godlike beings. She's building this signal tower to call them through because she doesn't think she has a choice. Picard and his crew are all kind of scattered about doing their own thing. Picard wants to try and convince Sodje and the other synthetics to change their mind, so he decides to steal the ship that he came in, head up there with the doctor and try and face off against the huge Romulan fleet in hope that he can talk them out of cleansing the planet before it's too late. Right, that's kind of what we're getting with this. Now, I do think this episode was better than last week's episode. I think it was very similar to the very first episode in this season. It actually, for nostalgia reasons here, there was a big nostalgia kick in this episode. And it kind of gave Star Trek fans a little bit of what they wanted. It kind of teased and gave us what we wanted, but then it was like a slap in the face because it's what we wanted for this season. Riker comes back in this episode, makes an appearance, although it's quite brief. We get another appearance from Data, but it's too brief and it makes no sense. I mean, I'd like someone to explain to me how Picard was having this conversation with Data, because it made absolutely no sense to me, even though I really enjoyed the interaction between Picard and Data. It was lovely to see. The request that Data makes of Picard makes complete sense. I like that idea, but again, it just, makes no sense how they could even have this conversation. Lots of this episode didn't really make any sense, but it was a satisfying conclusion, I guess, to a fairly unsatisfying season, if that again makes any sense. Reasonably happy with how it turned out. The storyline of Picard's brain hemorrhagey thing comes to a conclusion this episode, and again, that doesn't make sense how they resolve that. So they ticked a few boxes in here, but a lot of the boxes they ticked, they didn't earn the way to those ticks. They just kind of thought, oh, they'll be happy with this, we'll just tick these boxes and the fans will be happy. And it didn't really work. I think the Riker appearance made sense and I liked that. I really enjoyed that, but not much else made sense in this episode, unfortunately. I'm going to give this episode an 8 out of 10 because it was a satisfying conclusion. There was a couple of nice moments in this episode, even if we didn't get this huge battle. It was a more diplomatic end, if you like, to the season rather than a full-on battle. But overall, I'm giving the season itself, if you can see there at the bottom, I'm rating the season overall, all 10 episodes combined, and I'm giving the season overall a 7 out of 10. I think there's no other way of saying it, really. That I think the season itself has been disappointing overall. There's been some decent episodes, some fun episodes, but I just, I can't lie. I wanted more from Star Trek Picard. Occasionally it gave us glimpses of what we could have got in this season, but it was, and I've said this before on other episodes, it's almost as if Star Trek Picard was a 5 or 6 idea spread over 10 episodes, 5 or 6 episode idea spread over 10 episodes, and it really slowed the season down and dragged it out, and didn't really hit, I don't think, the mark for certainly Star Trek fans. So I think overall a bit of a disappointment. I think most Star Trek fans would agree with that analysis of Star Trek Picard. But it was nice to see Patrick Stewart back in his most iconic role. If there's going to be a season 2, and I believe there is, please, 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 can we have it a bit more space orientated, a bit more adventure based, a bit more investigating, and a bit more, next generation. That's all we ask. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll see you back for more reviews on Screen Stars very, very soon.